This is me, and this is me working out, which probably doesn't look all that different from the way you look when you work out. I wear mismatched Costco socks, I make awkward noises, and I push myself to the point of almost dying with every set. But what if I told you we're doing it wrong?
What?
Potentially. Instead of ending the set with a concentric contraction and racking the weight, whenever possible, go into the eccentric and hold that stretch for an extended period of time. Sounds crazy, but there's some merit to it. The concept is called interset stretching, where instead of resting after your set, you go right into a loaded stretch. And I don't know where I first heard about this concept, but I think it's fascinating because we'll do anything to kick our own ass. Drop sets, supersets, giant sets. But I've never thought about using stretching as one of the primary ways to induce hypertrophy. See if you can see my thick wife baking in there. And before anybody freaks out and says, I thought stretching before and during your workout was bad. Decreases force output, could cause potential injury. Yeah, stretching before can be detrimental if it's passive, which by definition is when you're focused on muscle and tendon flexibility and overall joint mobility. Think of it as a relaxed muscle at length. A loaded stretch, which is what we're talking about here, is when you're A loaded stretch, which is what we're talking about here, is when you're simultaneously lengthening and contracting a muscle while under load. If we look at it at the microscopic level, the good old myosin actin scissor sisters, you're going to see that during a passive stretch, there's very little interaction, so it's easier to overstretch a muscle, cause damage to the fibers and connective tissue. Now, on the other hand, when the muscle is contracted while stretching, those myosin heads are still interacting with those actin filaments, generating force and tension. I can barely speak. I don't know how I do this for a living. Especially. Now, it's critical you go into the loaded stretch after your last eccentric. There can't be any lag or rest in between, and the reasoning behind that has to do with Titan stiffness and the cross bridge theory. It gets a little sciencey, but it's important to know. Yeah. But before we continue, today is a big day. Potentially the biggest day of my life. Bigger than any picture day or the day I married my thick wife. Today's the day I stopped being one of the poors who wiped their ass by using primitive means, and I got myself a bidet. And believe me, this was no easy decision. I spent weeks comparing models, looking at different features, but you know what sold me? Chris fucking Valentine's glorious review. And I quote, I almost blew out an O-ring from 2 a.m. Chinese food, and for the first time in my life, I didn't have to hop in the shower and waffle stomp the rest of the shame away. That's beautiful. Technically, this is my first ever tech review on this channel, so let's go through some of the features and see what this bad boy can do. Man, does this company know its target market. How do I know this is perfectly designed for the man who takes explosive shits? Well, the sprayer itself will actually turtle itself back inside, that way it doesn't get caked with shit. It's genius. Spent the entire day doing yard work? That's alright, just click the front button and it'll take the cheese right off your gooch. Maybe you want a little bit of nostalgia in your life. Trip down memory lane? Well, let's take it back to high school football, that nice fresh cut grass and the sprinklers. You can have that for your butthole. Not bad. Gone are the days of hoarding Costco toilet paper because now you have a fan for your ass. I guess the only thing left to do now is... It's time. Not bad. Whew. Thing's got a bit of a kick. Well, that got a little out of hand. Where was I? Titin, a giant protein within the sarcomere, which is the smallest functional unit of a muscle fiber, plays a role in aligning the myosin actin as well as stiffness and elasticity of the muscle. Think of it like a spring within the sarcomere. The stiffness of the titin increases as the muscle's being stretched. Pair that with the contracted or loaded stretch, now you've enhanced mechanical tension, which we know is the driving force for muscle hypertrophy. Do you guys care about this, or are we getting too scientific? Comment below. The cross-bridge theory explains how during a contraction or weighted stretch, the myosin heads still interact with the actin filaments, generating force and tension and contributing to time under tension, which we all know is kind of a big deal. And pair that with the fact they've done studies where people take a break and then do a loaded stretch, and there is no benefit in terms of hypertrophy. That's why you got to do it right after your last eccentric. Now, I'm a giant toddler, so the first thing I did when I heard about this concept was use it on everything. After every back exercise, I do dead hangs. After chest presses, I try to tear my chest apart, triceps, you name it. The problem is the research just doesn't support training like that. The study that saw a significant improvement in terms of hypertrophy is one where they took a group of men and had them do plantar flexion exercises, calf raises, half rested, the other half went right into a 20-second weighted stretch. The ones that did the stretch saw a significant improvement, not in their gastroc, nothing happened there, in the soleus, which is awesome because I would love to have some Asian calves. And this is an interesting finding because the soleus is mostly a slow twitch or type 1 fiber muscle, meaning that it produces low-powered contractions over a long period of time, aerobic, fatigue-resistant, which makes sense. We're walking around on them all day, but they're also typically really resistant to hypertrophy. So this could be a breakthrough to help us finally get those Midwestern mom calves. Now, I've got nothing better to do with my life, so I'm going to continue to test this on different body parts across different exercises, but if you wanted to be on the safe side and line up with the research, do it on muscles that you think are predominantly full of type 1 fibers. Now, that's mostly genetic and has to do with training style, but for the most part, those are postural muscles. So the soleus is a good one, but maybe you have really little legs. I don't know, you're a dork and you ran cross country half your life. If you have little quads, this might be worth a test. What do you have to lose? They already suck. If you're curious about the exact protocol, the first thing you do is pick an exercise that it's safe to do it on. Seated calf raise is a great option because once you're done, you don't have to flex it back up. You can just let it slide off your knees and rack itself. And this is something you're gonna do after every single set. So say you have 4 sets here, yeah, it's a pain in the ass. You have to pick it up off the ground, re-rack it, but again, it's worth a shot. And in terms of the amount of time you should hold the stretch, the research says anywhere from 20 to 30 seconds. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but just holding this now, and I haven't done the set yet, this sucks. I'll be sure to give an update in a couple months, and as always, programs are linked below, 30 days, 20 videos, $20. Fuck, whatever. Screw this, I'm gonna go wash my ass again.